Good evening, everybody, and good to see you back in the class. We are still going through the last subject on the Dhamma, the Four Noble Truths, and we are now still with the four great efforts. To recap the previous talk on the great efforts, the Buddha talked about the great effort when he was a Bodhisattva, and one day he was journeying to another place to seek his fortune, and the ship sort of overturned, capsized, and a lot of people, they sort of just jump out from the ship before it drowned, and the Bodhisattva then thought to himself that I will jump as far as I can so that he will not be eaten up by the shark. And there are a lot of people who could not swim, and they sank near the ship, and there were a lot of sharks. They were food for the sharks. So the Bodhisattva jumped as far as he could, the last moment before the ship sank. And then he started swimming as fast as he could. There was no sight of any land. All around were the water, sea all around. Cannot see any land at all. It was in the middle of the ocean. But he kept on swimming. Bodhisattva said he did not give up hope. He swam and swam as fast as he could away from the ship. And when he was out of sight, he slowed down, but he still kept on swimming. And he swam for days. From morning, afternoon and night, and another morning, afternoon and night, and for days he was still swimming. But he was too far away from the shore. There's no land. He could not see any land. But he kept on swimming. And in the scriptures, Buddha tells the story that it appears that this ocean, that is this guardian of the ocean, this Devi, was a female Deva of the ocean, and she was having some parties, and after that, when he went back to do her job, to see what is happening around her, she saw the Bodhisattva swam and swam and swam, and with psychic powers, she could recall that the Bodhisattva has been swimming for days, and as she observed for many days after that, the Bodhisattva was still swimming. And so she thinks to herself, how foolish is this man? There's no land. It's too far away. No matter how he swam, he's going to die. She appeared in front of the Bodhisattva, just above the head, and calling up to him, hey man, what are you doing? Bodhisattva said, I'm swimming to the land. But there is no land. There's no land. It's too far away. Why don't you just give up and die? Why are you wasting your energy? Why are you wasting? Why are you punishing yourself? Why are you putting so much pain in yourself? Why don't you stop and just relax and die? But the Bodhisattva says, no, I'm not going to relax. I'm not going to stop swimming and die. No, even if I die, I'll put in my greatest effort. I will not just stop and die. I will swim until I die. I will put in my great effort. And so the female Devi took pity on the Bodhisattva, and she saved him. She just merely took him to the shore. So it was the story that the Bodhisattva talked about, the great effort that he has develop for his parami, the great effort. And the four great effort that is necessary for us to cross the ocean as well. The ocean of suffering, the ocean of birth and death. We need the four great efforts. And these efforts to overcome our defilements in the mind, to bring out the wholesome mind, in order to overcome the unwholesome mind. Only if we are able to bring up our wholesome mind, to develop alubha, adosa, amoha, to develop non-craving, non-ill will, hatred, to develop wisdom. So we got to bring up the wholesome mind to overcome the unwholesome mind. And therefore, the four great effort is necessary to overcome the unwholesome mind. Without the effort, the four great effort, we would not cross the ocean. We would not be saved. Without effort, defilements will take over our mind. Greed, hatred, delusion. They are always very ready there to seize the mind, to make us suffer. When this greed, hatred, delusion is, suffering is. Like in a place or town or countries where there are wars, where they are killing each other for money, for food, for prestige, for powers, for control, a lot of grieving. And if there is anybody who prevents them from getting it, then they develop strong hatred, anger, and they kill because of ignorance. When this craving connected to this ignorance, ignorance produces wrong views. The views of we against them, or I against them, or this is mine, or it is rightfully mine. So, defilements causes suffering, causes a lot of pain, a lot of stress. So the four great effort is needed. Not only, especially, the battle is within ourselves, our own mind, the battle to overcome the unwholesome mind within us. The Buddha says that it's a battle that we got to do. It's easier to overcome your enemies in 1,000 battles than to overcome your defilements, your own defilements. They're very strong. The defilement becomes very strong if you let them loose without effort. So only with effort you build up your defenses, you build up your wholesome mind. And then the wholesome mind has your armies, your wholesome armies to overcome the unwholesome armies, the defilements. So what are the four great efforts which the Buddha taught? Not just mindfulness. Mindfulness needs effort to sustain it. Need great efforts to build it up, to develop concentration. So mindfulness is just not enough. Mindfulness without the effort is just not enough. So in the Noble Eightfold Path, where there is this section on the samadhi, concentration or tranquility, there's these three combined together. Right mindfulness, right effort, right concentration. So it goes hand in hand. Mindfulness needs effort to build up, to make it strong. When you meditate, rising and falling, and if the mind goes away, You start to dream, you start to crave for food. What do? You need effort. Effort to bring it back. Hey, I'm meditating. I shouldn't be dreaming. I shouldn't be thinking about food. Shouldn't be enjoying in thoughts. I'm meditating. So I should bring my mind back to the meditation objects. So effort. If you don't bring up your great effort to bring it back, then you could be dreaming for the whole period of time when you're meditating or when you're sleeping. You need great efforts to bring up the energy in your mind. Take a deep breath, hold your breath, slowly let go, do a few times, and focus. Put in energy, put in effort, attention to the meditation objects. Again, effort is needed, or effort to maintain. You should not let go of the objects. This is when the Buddha says, like you are balancing a pot of boiling water on your head and you're walking on the tightrope. So you're very mindful and great effort to step one step at a time, so that with this balancing, you will not fall down or the water will not topple down and burn you. So you need mindfulness, you need great effort to balance step by step, walking on the tightrope. So what are the four great efforts, the four wholesome great efforts? Here a bhikkhu makes effort, arouses energy, exerts the mind to prevent unwholesome states of mind that have not yet arisen, to prevent them from arising. But how can we prevent unwholesome mind from arising? How? They just come and go. As you meditate, you know, just come by themselves, they go away, another thought arises, sometimes wholesome, sometimes unwholesome, a lot of time unwholesome, they just arise, they continue, and then they pass away. A constant flow, like a stream. So how could you stop them from coming? How could you stop greed from coming? How could you stop hatred from coming? How could you stop ignorance from coming into your mind? How could you stop them? How could you prevent them from coming? So the mindfulness and the effort, one way of doing it is to cultivate strong wholesome roots. For example, how do you stop greed from coming? By cultivating non-greed, right? It's opposite, a wholesome root. By cultivating contentment, just be content of what you have or what you can get. But if the mind constantly craves, that you could not prevent the craving mind from constantly arising in your mind. Yesterday's paper, I came across the articles on in China. Rich are dying to make it big. Vast wealth does not guarantee a long or happy life. There's one page of the article, and it is interesting. China is home to 60,000 of super rich who have 100 million yen. That means 470 million ringgit or more now in China. Could you imagine that? 60,000 of super rich now in China. And the article says that the newfound wealth has undoubtedly brought many blessings, but not necessarily longevity. Statistics shows the past 8 years have seen the death of 72 millionaires and billionaires who had a net worth of more than 100 million yen. 19 died from illnesses, 53 from unnatural causes such as suicide, accident and murder. According to the analysis of media reports conducted by Cheng Chuan-based metropolitan newspaper New Culture Daily. One example of an extremely rich man who died before his time can be seen in Li Hai-cheng, the founder of Hai Sea Iron and Steel Group Company Limited in Shanghai province. Li was shot in the back of the head by a friend who had killed himself. The police later ruled that the slaying had been the result of a commercial dispute. Now there were many cases, and some of them, they die from stress, they die from a lot of too much. They put in too much work, not enough rest, they die from diseases, and some kill themselves, they couldn't take it. Then a lot of them are unhappy, discontented, and so forth. 17 Chinese billionaires and millionaires with a net worth of more than 100 million yen had committed suicide. 15 had been murdered, 14 sentenced to death, 7 killed in accident. Could you just imagine that? And many of them, when interviewed, says that even though they have found so much money, but they have not found contentment. And some of them just could not stop. They could not stop because they have so many companies and thousands of employees. They just could not stop, even though they find themselves sleepless night, cannot sleep at night, the mind keeps on thinking non-stop, but they could not stop because their business is so big and they have so many employees. So one of these defilements that continuously arises in our mind is because of discontentment, because mind keeps on wanting everything. Necessary, also one. Unnecessary, also one. Everything, also one. So there is this mind that constantly, defilements of craving constantly arising in our mind, and we find it so difficult to prevent it from arising. We suffer sleepless night, we suffer a lot of stress, we suffer a lot of pain, envy, discontentment, jealousy, but it still keep on coming. So we have to establish contentment. We have to establish non-greed to overcome this restlessness of mind, to overcome distress, tension, to overcome rivalry, enemies, and so forth. What about the ill will? We have so much ill will in our mind. We have anger, frustration, sadness, remorse, pain and grief. We have so much anger in our minds. And where does this anger come from? It comes from attachment, which is the source, the cause of suffering. It is because we want something and we get something that is not up to our expectation. So we suffer discontentment and we suffer pain, mental pain, because pain is suffering. Dukkha. What is dukkha? Dukkha is feeling hard to bear. It's pain. So it is direct suffering. Craving is indirect suffering. But craving produces suffering. Craving produces ill will. So ill will is the direct suffering. Attachment is the cause of bringing about suffering, ill will. So attachment is the cause. Because with attachment to seeing something nice, if something is ugly, then we don't like it, we suffer. We attach to nice sound, to praises. But if we are scolded, if it's harsh word, if the music is noisy, we don't like, it is painful to hear. In other words, it is suffering to hear harsh words, people scolding, people criticizing. It's painful to hear music that you don't like to hear. Very loud music, there's no meaning in it, just shouting and screaming. So the craving is the cause. The ill will comes about, the suffering comes about because of the craving. So what do you need? We got to build up, practice loving kindness. We got to build up and make our loving kindness mental state strong. And when it is strong, and when it is present in our mind, that it prevents ill will from arising. Just as when you make the alopa strong, when you make the non-greed, contentment strong in our mind, then greed becomes weak. Then it does not arise so frequently in the mind. The same way as moha, same way as ignorance, confusion, stupidity. We need to cultivate wisdom, the three levels of wisdom: pariyati, patipati, pativeda. Pariyati, you have to learn, you have to listen, you got to study. We need to observe. By learning, we observe. Is this right? Is this wrong? Is this the correct way? Is this way makes me happy or makes me sad? Is this what I want in life? Pariyati. Pati, try it out. Practice. Experience it. And see whether what you think, what you study is right or wrong. Whether it works or it does not work. Just as you try out in your meditation. Does it work when I meditate? Do I get more peaceful, more calm, more happy? Do I have less of this defilement in my mind? Pati. Put that into practice. Pativeda. The realization, the penetration. These are the threefold of the wisdom arising through pariyati, through learning, through practice, through penetration, or insight, knowledge. So by using these three aspects of the wisdom, applying it, we could overcome this confusion of mind, this constant depending on craving that produces the wrong view of I, me, mine. Whenever we have this concept arising, connected to craving, this is mine, you cannot touch it because this is mine. I have a right, you have no right. When craving arises, connected to these wrong views from where? From moha, from ignorance. Ignorance produces these wrong views. So therefore, when it's enforced, the craving is enforced by this I, it is mine, it is I, belongs to me, only me, comes the jealousy, selfishness, envy, and then the ill will arises when you can't have what you want, when you have what you don't want, when it's not up to your expectation, not up to your standard, then ill will arises. Why? Connected to craving and wrong view produced by ignorance. So always greed and hatred is connected with ignorance. It always arises with ignorance. So if one cultivates, that's what you're trying to do now. We're trying to cultivate loving kindness so that we will have less ill will arising in our mind. To prevent ill will from arising, we cultivate wisdom. to see things as they really are. So you could have less craving arises in our mind, and ill will and confusion. So we are trying to perceive the nature of this mind and body. This mind is formation. It does not arise without a cause. It arises due to various causes. And the body consists of the four great elements. And if we are able to see the nature of sound, which is vibration, and the concept that we superimpose on the sound, and the concept we superimpose on seeing the form, the color, the shape that produces light and dislike, we superimpose. We come to a conclusion, a judgment, that this is good for you, or this is not good for you, because of I. Is it good for me? Is it not good for me? Do I have the benefit? Do I not have the benefit? Or it benefit others and not me, or my family, or my loved ones? Now when this craving comes up with this concept superimposed on the reality, on the nature of that is basically the four great elements of heat, which is cold, which is temperature, which is freezing, that we like and or dislike. But they are mere elements, they are mere temperature, internally, externally. But when it is superimposed by concept and I arises, that is the wrong view, then comes the likes and the dislikes. Craving always pulls up. I, me, mine, they, them, we and them, him and her. So it comes out. The concept sometimes brings a lot of pain and disturbances to the mind when it is connected to the unwholesome mental states. We call them defilements. They are the enemy of the mind. They make us suffer. When defilements arises in the mind, they are the enemy of our mind. They make us suffer in pain. Then arises the dissatisfaction, the ill will. That these are painful feeling, and this painful feeling is the noble truth. The first noble truth, which is dukkha, suffering, painful feeling, suffering. So if we develop wisdom by way of practicing in our meditation, then there will be less defilements arising in our mind, there will be less ignorance. So that is the first great effort, which is not easy. But the Bodhisattva say that he kept on swimming even when he see no land. All around him is water. North, south, east, west. He see no land. So he keep looking for land so that he could swim towards the land. But the Bodhisattva says, he see no land, but he keep on swimming. He'd rather die swimming than just give up and drown. The same way, great effort is needed for us to overcome our defilement mind. We got to keep on swimming, even though we see no land. We only see water around us. There's no land. But we keep on swimming, just as the great effort to keep on practicing and bring up and develop and cultivate wholesome roots, so that it weakens the unwholesome roots. When the wholesome roots are strong, the unwholesome roots become weakened. But if the wholesome root is weak, the unwholesome roots become strong, and it overcomes the wholesome roots. So the more we cultivate wholesome mind, the disappearance of the evil mind becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. But if we do not have the right effort, the great effort, and just let our mind flow and let it be conditioned then the unwholesome mind becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, and the wholesome mind becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. And when the unwholesome mind becomes strong, suffering becomes strong, because unwholesome mind is suffering. When you have a lot of greed, hatred, and delusion, we have a lot of confusion, a lot of suffering, a lot of pain. So, comes to the next effort. What is the second effort? To abandon unwholesome states of mind that have already arisen. Of course, along the way, those unwholesome minds will still keep on arising because we have not developed very strong, wholesome roots. So we are succumbed to the attacks, the constant arising of these unwholesome minds. And what if they have a reason? What if they have already there a reason in your mind? And worse still, when they become so strong, they produce despair, they produce depression, then it is worse. There are those who are having strong fear. They become very strong. Then you need great efforts to pull yourself up from these unwholesome mind. If you don't pull yourself, apply great effort to pull yourself up from the defilement mind, then you are in deep suffering. Some of them become crazy. You couldn't stand the pain. And one escape from the pain is to become crazy. Mind has natural preservation of life. It preserves life. And how do we preserve life? How do the mind preserve life? How do the craving clings to life? By going crazy. There's one way. And the mind goes mad. Then he has crazy thoughts. Then he wouldn't suffer so much pain. But that's what the mind thinks. But it is not so. Because crazy people sometimes experience stronger pain, mental pain, than those who are half crazy. The fact is, we are half crazy. Unless we are arhats, then we are fully sane. Otherwise, half crazy. As long as we are not arahants, we have not realized, fully awake, we are half asleep, and half crazy actually, because we torture ourselves, we make ourselves suffer in great pain, because we are half crazy. That's why we need metta, loving kindness, to heal our mind. Otherwise, we become very crazy and we make ourselves suffer by all the unwholesome thoughts. To abandon unwholesome states of mind that have already arisen. How do we do that? Yes, we do that in our meditation. We learn to note the mind instead of the objects that produces more pain. Now we do that in our meditation. How do we do that? When there's anger arising in our mind, if we have a lot of anger, thinking that somebody has stolen something from us, somebody has harmed us, somebody has, not justify unjustly, doing something that is wrong against us. The more we think of that somebody, the mental object that is somebody, the more we get angry. So in meditation, we think of the angry mind, the object that is in the angry mind. Now instead of thinking of the object, we think of the angry mind. As mindfulness arises, as we note the mind, then the anger disappears. The mind becomes wholesome. Every time we note the mind becomes wholesome because mindfulness is there. Whenever there is mindfulness, the mind is wholesome. Absence of mindfulness, then the mind is unwholesome. When you are angry, thinking he harmed me, he hurt me, he is doing a lot of rubbish, unfair to me, then there is no mindfulness. You're just being moved by your thoughts that somebody has harmed you. But in your meditation, you bring out your mindfulness and you note the object. And the object is the angry mind, not the object of that somebody who has harmed you or caused pain to you. So, the abandoning of the unwholesome mind. So, the angry mind, which is the unwholesome mind, you replace it with wholesome mind, with mindfulness, as you note anger, anger, anger. So you need great effort, great effort to tear away your mind from the object that produces the pain and note the object as the angry mind, the object that produces the angry mind. Now the angry mind is not the object itself, but the angry mind. So that is one way of abandoning the hatred, the ill will, the greed, by watching your greedy mind. Why are you so unhappy with things you can't have? Why are you so unhappy with things you have that you do not want? You have to learn to live in life the best we can, because there's no choice. When there's no choice, we have to learn to live the best we can. When you can't choose, when you have not able to choose, then you have to make do with the best that you can. You do not complain. You don't have a new car, you have an old car that always gives trouble. You have to make do with the old car. There's no choice. There's no use keep on complaining and agree when you look at your neighbor's new car, the attachment and the wishing. If only I could have that car next door. If only I could have. Well, maybe not such a good car, but at least a better car, a cheaper car, but it is new. But it is no use keep wishing, craving, cleaning, longing for something that you can't have now. You have to make use the best you can. If you don't have a car, you have to learn to take bus or go by LRT, because there is no choice. You have to live the best you can. Be content with what you can have, not to live in misery of what you can't have, because you have no choice. So you have to make use of the best that you can have, make the most of it, as they say, of what you have. So to abandon the wholesome states of mind, like changing objects, which we have mentioned. You could change the object. Well, like if you are disturbed, if you are restless, you direct your attention to your rise and fall, then you would not be so upset and disturbed. As you change your object and try to develop concentration in the neutral object, rising and falling. As you gain concentration, restlessness stops and disturbance mind also stops. Changing object by being angry, why don't you change it into compassion and kindness? So when you get angry, tell yourself, okay, if I forgive others, maybe others will forgive me, right? If you don't forgive others, then why expect others to forgive you for the wrongs? Because we all do wrong things. We are not the Buddha, not the Arahants. We do a lot of right things and also a lot of wrong things in our life. Sometimes we do right, sometimes we do wrong, according to our perception, to our thinking, to our thoughts. And so are others the same way. They do right, they do wrong. Sometimes they do wrong things to you. You learn to forgive. If you don't, if you develop a lot of hatred in your mind, then you can't sleep. You torment yourself and keep hurting your own mind with a lot of hatred, a lot of revenge, and that is suffering, unpleasant feeling. You torture yourself, actually. Why do you torture yourself? Because of moha, because of ignorance. You torture yourself. Because of ignorance produces wrong view of I, me, mine. And you do not know that you're torturing yourself. You think that people are torturing you. But you're torturing yourself, actually, by the unwholesome mind that has become strong and keep on constantly arising. Every time it arises, it produces painful feeling. Every time it arises, it produces suffering. So, you torture yourself. Actually, you torture yourself. So, you need great effort. Not to torture yourself. You need to change object. You need to ignore it. If it's very strong, try to ignore it. Try to forget about it. And continue on with your life. If you're stuck with the past, if you're always thinking that he harmed me, he hurt me, he's unfair, he do all these things to me, if you're always stuck to the past, there will be no future. If you're always, the mind is always stuck in the past of unhappiness, there will be no happiness in the future. Because the present is occupied by the past. And when the past is unhappiness, and it keeps coming into your present, there will be no future. Destroy the happiness. There will be no future. There will be no happiness. Because it is controlled by the past. So we need to let go, to detach. And you need great effort to tell yourself, to let go. When it arises in your mind, the only way to go is to let go. There's no other way. If you anchor on the thought, it will keep on arising and cause you great pain. The only way is to let go. Let go of the past. Then you have the future. If you don't let go of the past, there will be no future. Because the past will keep on becoming the present. And the present is going to be the future. So in the meditation, when you do your rising and falling, we learn to let go. Whatever comes, we do not anchor on it. We do not attach to it. We do not crave for it. We just see it arising and disappearing. Whatever arises in our mind, whatever, it is wholesome or it is unwholesome. We just see the mind, perceive the mind, just note it. See its beginning, see its continue, see its end, and a new mind arises. The same way that pariyati, you know that it is so. Pati, you put it into practice, you experience that it is so. That every time thoughts arises, it will have to go. Pativeda is you really penetrate into the arising and disappearing of the thoughts. That forever it will arise and disappear. If you hold on to it, then it prolongs the suffering, the pain. You try to hold on to something that you can't hold on to, something that is keep on slipping away. It is like building sandcastle near the seashore. Every wave that comes has the potential to destroy the sandcastle. The Buddha says attachment brings pain, attachment brings fear. If there is no attachment, there is no pain, there is no fear. Attached to something that you can't attach to brings a lot of pain and fear, because it is constant changing, arising and disappearing. How could you hold on to something that is not there? One moment it is there, the next moment it is no longer there. But the mind could not see it. The ignorant mind could not see it, thinking that it is always there. And therefore, the mind keeps on clinging to something that is not there, thinking it is there. So therefore, there is constant fear and pain when this ignorance mind becomes strong. So only by the practice of meditation, when the wisdom arises by way of patipatiyana, by way of experiencing, seeing things as they really are, seeing the nature of this mind, seeing the nature of this body, that they are constantly arising and disappearing, that every breath, when it arises, it will continue and disappear, and a new breath arises, just as the old mind that disappears, a new mind will arise. And the new mind that disappears, another mind takes its place, constantly arising and disappearing. And only in meditation, in the practice of the four foundations of mindfulness, can we experience the true nature of this mind and body. When we see it as such, then the mind let go. Because you can't cling on to something that is not there in the first place. Every time you hold it, it disappears. Because split second, it appears only there in the split second, it is not there. The moment you reach for it, it disappears. It is fast. In the Appamadena, it is said that the snap of the finger, the mind travels 7 times around the world. But the speed of the mind arising and disappearing is so fast that when you see it, it is already disappearing. It is not there. And how could you hold on to something that is not there, constantly arising and disappearing? So you learn to let go, to abandon. Even wholesome states, you can't hold on to. Unwholesome state, you need to abandon it. Don't carry it forward. Let it go. It is already gone. Don't hold on to it. Let it be. So that is the great effort to abandon it, by just letting go. By cultivating forgiveness, you let go. Right? To err is human, to forgive is divine. Because we are human, we make mistakes. But if we are able to forgive, indeed we are great. We are indeed great. We can learn to forgive. It is called the Brahma world of the Brahma. If we cultivate forgiveness, which is without forgiveness there will be no loving kindness, and we have a great mind, the mind of the Brahma. The great shining beings, they are very, very great beings. They are called the Brahma. And they are developed by way of loving kindness, compassion, joy at other people's success, non-selfishness. Whenever people are successful, great joy arises in the mind. Equality, balance of mind. So these are the 4 types of mind. When fully developed, they become reborn in the world of the great Brahmas. I will stop here for tonight. We still have a bit more to cover on the other two. And mindfulness itself is not sufficient. You need great effort to maintain your mindfulness. Great effort to bring up your mindfulness when it is not there. When you know that your mind is disturbed, your mind is unhappy, mind is discontentment, you know that there is no mindfulness there. Mindfulness is absence. So therefore you need great effort to bring up your mindfulness. And what do? Direct your mind to your rising and falling. Direct your mind to walking meditation. Direct your mind to what you're doing in the present moment. When you're sweeping, you're very unhappy and disturbed. Put your mind into the sweeping. When you're washing, put your mind into the washing. Whatever you're doing at that moment, bring out the mindfulness by paying attention to what you are doing. The four great elements, sweeping, wind element, right? Watch your body. When you get angry, your body gets heated up. Heat element. Just watch your body. See, the mind affects the body. When you're getting angry and disturbed, the heat element becomes very strong. Watch the heat element. Watch the vibration. Watch the motion. Watch the earth element. Bring your mind back to your meditation. Great efforts to bring up your mindfulness. When it is not there, you've got to bring it up. You need to maintain it so they become strong. So they develop into concentration and samadhi. Then you become very peaceful, contented and happy. So great effort is needed with your mindfulness. So any question for tonight?